All right, welcome back, guys. In the last part, we looked at the testing and we saw how to write test for our project. In this session, we'll be looking at two things majorly. We'll be looking at writing our documentations. Then also we'll be looking at deploying this to the production server, like I said. Okay, so having said that, I'm just going to do some installations now. We'll be using the Spectacular framework, DRF Spectacular framework. And to do that, we'll just install it. We'll say pip install DRF, that's Django REST framework, then Spectacular. Yeah, so this should do that for us, for our documentations. And we are done with this. Okay. We would also install what we call Django course headers. This will be useful for communicating with the front end domain. Then finally, we would install what we call Gunicorn. Gunicorn is the engine that would serve this project on the production server. So pip install Gunicorn. Yes. Okay, so these are three things I've installed. The DRS Spectacular for the documentation. We also install the Django course headers for making sure we can communicate properly with the front end, such that the domain name, will be there'll be a proper handshake on the front end also. Then Gunicorn, which we installed for the engine to serve this project on the production server. And finally, we'll just create a requirements file, requirements.txt file. This will be needed for the production server. That's the platform we'll be using, so that we can know all the requirements it will use. So you can see it now. These are all the things we've been using. Django course headers that just installed, Django REST framework, simple JWT, Spectacular, Unicorn, and the likes, basically. So now that we've done this, let me just close this. We would need to configure our settings to reflect these things, these changes here. So I would go to, let me just get this from the settings. Let me get this from the settings. So I'll just copy this here. Then go to our own settings and paste this here. So you can see now we have the DRS Spectacular for the documentation, then the course headers also, like I said. So we don't need to put in Unicorn here because that is mainly for the production. So I haven't done this. The next thing we'll do is we'll still need to do some other configurations. We'll add this to the middleware. The course headers, add it to the middleware. Take note, this should come in the upper part in middleware. So you can see course headers.middleware.course header and course middleware. So these are just the standard practice for the course headers. Then one more thing, we need to include this default schema class. In the REST framework, I'll just come here, add another key to it. You can see we have one already, which is the authentication classes. We'll have another one here, default schema class, and we are saying use the DRS Spectacular. Now, there are other frameworks you can use for your documentation, but the DRS Spectacular is good. It's similar to Swagger, another framework you use for the documentation. Then finally, we'll just come and put in the spectacular settings. Then we should be good to go. So I'll just come here and paste this here. So you can see here now, we have the Task Manager API description. This is just a description. So you see how this is displayed. Like I said, the documentation is helpful for your front-end developers and any other person who wants to consume your API. It makes it easier for them to understand what you're doing. Now, if you already have a domain name or your front-end has been deployed, that's the front-end application has been deployed, then you can also come here and say course allowed origins. So in this case, this would be the domain name or the URL address of the front-end application, right? It could be Vercel, it could be Netlify, it could be any other domain name. This is where you put it so that it can also connect properly. Like I said, the course headers allows, different origins, in this case, domain names or URLs, as the case may be. So with this now, we've already done the settings that we need. We've added the schema class. We've added the spectacular settings. This would be seen on the API documentation. Having done this, we can now proceed. There's one more thing we need to do on our URLs. Let me just get this here. On our URLs, we need to include this documentation part on our URL. So yeah, I'll just come here and put this here. So what we are seeing here is part API schema, then give us this spectacular API view. Then if you come to docs, then give us the Swagger view, right? You'll see this, like I said again, as we wrap up. So I'll just copy and paste this here. And I'll come here, I'll paste this here. So from DRF spectacular.views, import spectacular API view, then the Swagger view, spectacular Swagger view, which we're using here. So I haven't done this now. We can now come to this route, API docs, to see these endpoints. So I'll just come here and I will run the server. Let me run the server. So I'll be visiting this route now. This route then /API, then docs to see this endpoint, right? So let's do that now. Okay, so I'm going to share this now with us. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, so you can see now we are on the URLs /API/. So you can see we have the API schema, and API docs. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the API since there's already an API there. I'll just adjust that. So I need to just remove this API. So we'll just have it as schema and docs. So if I refresh this, we should see that now. Let me see. The server is still loading. Okay, yeah, it is done. So now I can see API schema, then API docs. If I should go to the docs now, let me see, API docs, and I run this, you can see it's loading now. This is the DRF spectacular. So you can see this is the description we put there. Tax Manager API, version 1.0, right? Then API documentation for the project and tax management system. That's the description we put there. And you can see all our endpoints are stated here with their respective apps. So this is a post request for the login. You can, test it. You can test it here. So let's say we want to log in. We can just run that. Let me see. Um, should be able to can execute. Yeah, try it out. Yes. So if I come here now, username, I put in user one. Remember, we created the user like that. Then password, I think we used secure password, if I'm not mistaken. Right? If I should execute it to test, you'll see what we have. We have, let me see. Yes, the code 200. That means it worked successfully. And you can see we have our refresh token and our access token. So these are the endpoint that the front end will consume. And when they do this, they will also have the same output. Now they would get this in the response body and they can use this, to authenticate the user and do other things on the application. So you can register a new user here. You can just come here and click this to try it out. You should see that. Try it out. Try it out here. So you can create a new user and you can do other things. So this is how you document your APIs, right? So we just have two models and the APIs for them, the project and the tags. You can see get, put, patch, delete. Then for this also we have the get, post, and the main verbs for our endpoint. So this is how to document your APIs. Now, with this, we've come to the end of the project. The next thing for us would be to deploy it. And we'll be using Render. Render is a very good platform that allows us to, what's it called? Deploy our project. But before that, we need to push it to GitHub. And when we push it to GitHub, we need to create a repo. When we push it to GitHub, then we can now move to Render and connect it. That's the repository connected to GitHub. So let's go back to our code. Let's go back to our code. Let's go back to our code. And let's push this code to GitHub, right? Let's push this code to GitHub. So I'm going to stop this server now. And as you can see, we have our documents. That's the documentation. We have the JUnit that we have installed already. And I think we have every other thing. So I'll just create simple git init. You can say git init here. Initialize an empty repository. Let's see what we have here. And I can say git so we wouldn't want to take the virtual environment to the what's the word now? We would want to take the virtual environment alongside the GitHub repo, right? We just want to take the project, the configuration, which is the root folder, the database, the requirement.txt, right? We don't want to take what is not needed to excuse me, please. We don't want to take that to the what's it called? To the repo. Yeah. So what we can do to prevent that is we would create a ignore file, git ignore file, and we'll just tell it, oh, don't take this to the repo, right? I believe you already have your GitHub account. You can just create a repo. I'll do that shortly. So let me see. Okay, let me go to my GitHub here. I'll go to my GitHub here and just create a new repository. I'll just create a new repository here. Then I'll call this tax manager API. Yeah. So task manager API, that's just name of the, I can call this project, right? Task manager API project. So you can see this here. We're going to just, these are the commands. The commands you have here are what we're going to put. So I'm going to go back to my repo, my code base to do this. Okay, so git init, this initialize and okay, I've done that already. So what we'll do is we'll echo, that is this virtual environment, and it's a folder, right? So it's a folder, and we're going to say take this to the git ignore, right? That means we don't want it to be pushed. So ignore it, basically. Ignore this. All right. So I haven't done this now. All the commands we have in that place, we can now proceed. Git add, right? So we've had everything. So if you check the status now, you should see that all the other things have been added, right? And the git ignore file also was created. So this git ignore file, this .git ignore file, you won't see it there, but it's there. But you won't see it. However, it's there. So what we're saying is add this folder, this virtual environment folder to the git ignore file. That means ignore it. Don't take it to the repo. Ignore it. So other things are added there. Now we can proceed. We can say git commit. We should commit first. Commit, then initial commit. Right? So we've added everything. Now, if you go back to your repo, you should see the next command, branch, git branch, git branch main, and you can see that. Then you need to get your origin address. You paste it here, git add origin. Yours is different from mine, so you have to ensure that the origin you have from your repo is what you're posting here. Then you can put this here as well. You check the status now, you see that nothing there because it's clean already. Then we can push. So you can push to the repository. Now, if you try to push and you're having an error, sometimes this happens. Maybe the password is not created or stuff. You can go to the settings under your profile. You go to the settings. Let me see if I can show you it. And you can create you can create a token, generate a token for that. So you go to the settings and generate a token for that. That's something you can do, right? Go to settings and generate a token for that. That's something you can do. So let me show you this now on the GitHub repo. So you can see it now. If I refresh this, you to see the projects. Yeah, we can see everything is there and the git ignore file that we created and everything has been pushed except the virtual environment, which we don't need here. Now, if you look at that requirement file we created this here as well, requirement.txt, and if you open it, you see all the requirements. But this will be needed in the render platform. So you need to sign in, create an account on Render, do the verification and all of that. Once you're done, you need to sign into render. Then once you sign into render, what we need is the free tier project. We don't need the big project basically. The free tier project is just fine, it's good enough, right? So I have created this here before. I'm just going to stop this now. Let me just see. I'm just going to stop this here. Um, so you come once you sign in and you've done the verification process on render, then you click on new, then you should see this web service, right? Web service. Once you're done, once you click on the web service, it will take you to connect your project, right? You need to install the GitHub, so it will connect that for you very, very well. So if you do this now, you should have clicked on the project. This is the GitHub. Now, once you've done this, you can see it's already telling you this is the name of a project. That's a repo. What you can now do is very simple. For this place, because we are not using app, we are using the config. So we just come here and say, we're not using app. You can say config, gnicon config. This is our root project, remember? Then WSGI, then application. Right, so remember to look at this, gnicon config. This is our root project. Then, so what we are just saying is if you go and check that config, you see this module WSGI. Remember I said at the beginning that you don't need to bother yourself about it. It's for the production server. And that's what I'm doing here. So ensure you choose the free tier, right? Don't choose the starter plan or any other plan. Just choose the free tier. And of course, it has limitations, but for this purpose, it'll be good to go. If I haven't done this now, then we don't have any other unnecessary things. Just leave the source, leave everything the way it is. In some instances, if you have what's it called? If you have some environment variables that you've created in your local server, you want to put them here, but now we don't have them. This is where you want to put them environment variables, so it will override what you have on your local server. Because on your local server, it is just limited there, but this is a new server. So anything you use, let's say secret keys, let's say API keys, you want to add them here as well. So, but in this case, we are done. Then we can now deploy the web service. Please ensure you are choosing the free tier plan so that you don't um, incur unnecessary cost on your hand. So we'll just wait and see how this go. So you can see it's just loading based on the requirements that we've given it. You can see the GUnicorn, right? The spectacular, the REST framework, the simple JWT and everything. So if it happens that you have any error here, it will show you, right? It will show you the error. Then you just need to go and check what it is. Probably the requirement file, maybe you didn't create it well, or a certain folder was missing, certain dependency was missing, or you installed a dependency but you didn't put it in the installed apps. You just want to just check, why that is so. So we are still waiting, it's still installing. These are the logs. We just keep on waiting and to see how it does. Okay, so let me see. So we're having an error here. Are we? Okay, we're having an error. We're not having any error. Are we? Okay, I think we're having an error here. It says let me see. So it has installed, at least I think, and this is the route as you can see here. But it says disallowed host file. Okay. So Django.call exceptions allowed host invalid HTTP host header. Right. So if you check this now, this is where this error is coming from. So you can see it here. It says that the host header is invalid, right? So what it means is this URL that vendor provided for us, which is just a custom URL, we might need to add it to the allowed host, right? So that's what we need to do. We need to add this URL to the allowed host so that Django will allow it to, work fine. So I would go back to the code base. Let me come back to the code base here. Then I'll go to the settings. So in this allowed host, you should see it here. Yes, this is it here. I'll just come here and paste that URL that was given. So I haven't done this. I'll need to deploy. I'll just come here. I can just say git add. I don't need to do the just git commit. I can just come here and say um, added render URL to allow. This just gives you, tells you what you've just done. Then git push. You should push the latest update. All right, so we've done this now. We can go back to Zender, to render, not Zender. We can go back to render and we'll see. We need to just redeploy it again. So okay, so I think it's actually redeploying itself. Let me see. Yeah, it's redeploying itself. So automatically, as you can see, if you're making certain project changes, right, it will just redeploy itself. Now, it's also important to know that while using a SQLite database for this project, right? If you are working on a major project or a real project, you want to change the database because SQLite is not very, very stable. It's not recommended. You want to use something more robust like Postgres or MySQL, right? And Render has that for us. Now, if you are doing that, your settings will change. You have to change the database settings. You would not use what's the word now? You would not use the SQLite settings that it is. You change that. In a different project, we'll look at that and we'll see how you can, work on that. But for now, your SQLite database is fine and good to go. But I think this is run successfully. Let's just see it. I click on this. Let's see what we have. Um, Let me see. Okay, I think it's still loading. Let me see. I think it's still loading. It's still giving us that error it gave us last time. So I'll just come here and I'll just redeploy it again. So I'll just click on deploy latest commit. Yes. Deploy latest commit because I've made an update, but ideally it should actually, redeploy itself. Actually redeploy itself, but let's just do that and wait. So you can see it's loading. We'll just wait and see how it goes. Okay, so I think it has finished. Okay, it's still deploying. Let me just retry this and see. Let me refresh this. Okay, I think we are good to go. We're not getting that error again. So that means this URL is found, right? Like, let me come here. If I should click on admin, let's see if we can access the admin. So in this case now, the server is live, right? It's live. Now we're not getting this. I think this is just due to the collect static that we've not done, but we should be good to go. Admin, then I'll put my password. This is the super user we created before, don't forget. So if I do this, I should be able to log into the admin. Yes. Now this, we are not getting the color because I think for the color static, we've not done the static. But you can see we're going to log into the admin and we're good to go. You can see the demo project, the demo tags we created. Now, if I should go back to view site, it should take us back to that. Let me see, view site, yeah. So if I should come here to API /API, /API, yes, you can see it now. /API, if I do /project, you can see we have this, right? Now, and if I come here to the docs, API /docs, it should give me the documentation, the Swagger documentation. And this is what we want to have. This is what we want to see. And you can also test this here. Let's see if we can create a new user. Let's just try that. Let's click on try it out. Right? If you want to create a new user. So username, I'll just come here and then change this to, let me see. I'll just say user3. And I'll say user3. I think app.com, the password, I'll still use secure password. And let's see if I execute it, let's see what we have. Okay, we have a response body and we're getting a 201. That's a success message. So this has been created successfully, right? So in this case, now we have 3 users, right? So if we go to the login and try and log in, we try and do it now. If we come here, click on try it out. We put in user3, then the password as secure password. And we execute it. We should get a 200 code response body. As you can see now, we have the refresh token and the access token. And this is how the front end, would consume your APIs. They will just, for different endpoints, the login, the register, you can create a project, you can test this on Postman. Let's look at this. Let's test it on Postman and see if we can do one or two things. Let's see if we can do that on Postman using this address, right? So I'm going to just close this. I'm going to close the registration on as well. Then let's see if we can create a project using this on Postman. So if I should click on project, right? If I should click on project, let's see. I'm going to copy this route, this endpoint, and open Postman. So I'm going to open Postman now. So take Postman as, the front end or the service trying to consume your endpoint, right? So I'll just create a new request. Then I'll paste this endpoint here. So I will need to, remove these docs. We don't need these docs here. So API project, then project create, right? Project create. So this will be a post request. This will be a post request. Okay, before this, let me do the login so I can get the authentication details, right? I can get the application details. I'll just come here. Then we put auth, then login, right? We change to a post request. We're making a post request. Then for the body, I'm going to change this here. Form data. So key, I'll use user name. Then I think that's user 3. Then the password will be secure password. So now we are trying to test the endpoint on the production server. I know we've done this already on the local server, which worked. So if I should run this now, if everything works out fine, we should have a 200 or 201 success code, status code. Okay, so we're having an error. Let's see what the error is. You call this URL var post, but the URL does not end in a slash. Okay, so let me put a slash here to end it and run it again. Okay, so we are having, yep, so it worked fine. So you can see now, this is a service, quote unquote, offline service. I'm able to access the endpoint on the production server, right? So I'll just copy this token, access token. I'll copy this access token, then come back to this one here to create a project, come to form data. So authentication, with authentication, bearer token. I'll add this bearer token here. Let me delete this one and paste the new one. Then go to body. So for the project, let me go and check what's it called? The model. So I remember the title. I think there's a title. Okay, it's name and description. Yes, name and description. So if you come here, we're saying name, we can now say let's say project build mobile app. Just then description. This is our new project for 2026. Right. So I haven't done this now. I need to let me put a forward slash here to end it. Okay, we have another error. Let's see. Page not found. Let me see what's going on. Okay. This should be project, not project create. Yes. So project, not project create. All right. So you can see it now. ID 4, build mobile app. This is our new project for 2026. User 3, which is the news I just created on the production server. And you can see the date and time. So you can see we've been able to test the endpoint locally and it worked. But more importantly, it's not just good enough to test it locally because no one will access it unless apart from you. But once you're able to deploy it to a production server, right, and you can test it and it works fine, then you know you've done a good job. So if you're able to achieve this up to this point and you can test your production endpoint, right, on your Postman, you've done a very, very good job. So you can create more users, you can create more projects, you can create more tags. Let's see if you can create a tax for this user. So we'll still, for the tax endpoint, let me see. Um, the what's it called? The front end people will be, using their React app and there'll be GUIs there. So let me see. We've done this now for the tax. What are the fields of the tax? We have title, description, status, due date, project assigned to created act. Okay, let's just see if we can create a tax for this particular. So I'll just come here, change this to tax. Right, then JSON format. So I'll change this to title. Get Android and Apple framework. This is just a tax for this. right? So description, I think there's a description under the tax. Yeah, there is a description field. So I'll just put it, this is our first tax, right? And then 6 mobile app. Then we have more fields. There's a status field. So I'll leave it. If I leave it, I think it should not. I think it should actually be on pending. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, pending. The due date, year first, 2026. Then month, let's say March. Let's say second. Now, project. That's what project does it belong to? Project. That's project 4. So I need to put this here. I'm going to take S members now. The endpoint, I need to change this here. Add project, then 4. Yeah, this is how to do. This is the endpoint to create a new task. And you can find that from the documentation. Just go to the post route. You see API project, project ID, then tax. So API project, project ID, for then tax. Then the other thing we want to put is the assign to. So let me just see. Um, assign to. So let me just spell it to. Though this should be the primary key, but for some reason it's coming to user 1. So let me just look at verse 2, and I think this is good. So if you run this now, let's see what we have. Okay, token is not valid. It has expired basically. So I'll just we'll just go here, run the login again. Then we should get a new access token. So if I come back here, I'll go to the auth, then replace this with this, then go back to the body. Everything is still intact. So if I should run this now, you can see it has worked successfully. So we are still having no here. I think this we can always change this to cascade. But then again, if you are filling with a form, you'll be able to see the users and you can identify, you can always put in the user, but I will look at that why it's not responding. Right? You can see every other thing works fine. So if we want to update this project now, let's say you can see it is pending. Let's say we want to update it, we can just run a put, right? The put request and the put request, you need to fill everything. But let's just want to just do one field, then use patch. So patch allows you to just edit or update a single field, a single record. But put means you have to update everything. That is the difference between both of them. So here now, I can just come here and say, going to uncomment this. We don't need this for now. I'll just say status. Then I'll change it to, if I put in a value that does not exist, let's just say house. House does not exist here, right? So for the put, we're trying to update a tax, right? So the endpoint for that is API tax, then ID. API tax and ID. So I don't need to put in this project. I don't need to put in um this. So the tax is 5. The ID for tax is 5. How do I know that? You can see it here. It's 5. So API tax and 5. So if I should run this now, we will probably have an error. I want to see the error, right? Okay, I need to end it with a slash, which I've done that now. Now, the tax object has no attribute owner. That's interesting. So it doesn't have any attribute owner. So let's go and check this tax again. Let's run a get request on this tax and see. A get request on the tax. That's interesting. So let's do this. Let's go back to that project, then tax. Let's look at the project. So to get all tax, we can just run the tax ID, which is attached to a particular project. Let me see. Okay, so let me do this. I think it was project four, then tax. So let's run this and see. So this project was created successfully, and or this tax, I mean, was created successfully. Status is pending, due date, project. So if this is done, let me see. So the tax ID is 5, right, as you can see here. Now let's see if we can run that query again. If you get tax ID 5, let me see, project tax ID 5, I run this. Tax object has no attribute owner. Okay, so apparently it appears the tax object, which is attached to a project, the owner is not seen. That's interesting. That's interesting that the owner is not seen. So we can update that. Let's go to the project endpoints to update that project. So what we're going to do is we are going to try and see if we can get the project using the endpoints to list project. So if we do that now, let's see. We're still making a get request. Well, yeah, we're going to change this to project. Okay, the token is expired. Let me see. Okay, let me just copy this endpoint and paste here. So this would be auth, then login. So I'm just going to remove all of this. We don't need all of this. Then that way to fill it. So username, you can say user3, then password. You can say your password. So you can see we're using the form data, but it's another way to do it basically. So if we run this, let's see what we have. Oh, this should be a post request, not a get request. So I need to change this to post because we are trying to log in as a post request. Okay, so what error are we having here? Let me see. Let me use single quotes here. Expecting value, line 2 column. So it's like it's not seeing the value. Why is that? Let me see. Okay, let's leave it with double quote. I think this is more reflective of a value. Sending request now. Okay, so this works fine. I'm gonna copy this access token again. And I should go back here. I'm just gonna have to change this here. Now, the expiry date of this access token could be extended, right? So might be thinking it can be actually it can be extended actually. So this works now, and we can see that project 4 has an owner, which is the user 3, which we just created, right? That's another which is user 3. So let me see. If we try to come here now, go to the auth. Oh, I see why. I see why. That was the reason why. I think we created that we didn't use this. So let me just do this now. I'll put this here. Then I'll go to put to update that. So I need to go to put to update this now. Let me see. So we are not using the login. To update a tax, we go to tax ID. So that tax, this is project 4, right? Project 4, the tax is ID 5. So come here, tax, then ID, which is 5, right? So the fields for that remains. I can just come here and say, let me see if we put a patch will work here. I'll just say owner. Then I'll come here and say, um, I think 3, user 3, that's user 3. Not necessarily owner. I think that should be project.owner. But let me do this here. Let me create a new tax with this. That should be project.owner. Let me create a new tax. Let me create. So I'm going to use projects here. Then to create a new tax project, the project is 4, then tax. Okay, so I'll just come here and change this. It has a title, I think. It has a description. The title is a description. The title, I'll just come here and say new tax, new mobile app. Description, this is new tax. Okay, so the tax field also has status. I'll leave it just like that. Due date, I'll just put the due date. Then year, 2026, month, March. Let's say that's it. What other field does it have? It has a project. In this case, is 4, right? So we have the project. In this case, is 4. Then we also have the assigned to. So I'll just use 2 here. So let me just confirm we are still working in line with this. If I should log in now, let me see. Okay, the access code has changed, so I'm just going to use access code just in case that one has expired, right? So, all right, so this is good. So we have project title, description, due date. If we run this now, let's see. All right, so we have a new tax now, and the tax is ID 6, right? So if you want to get the tax for this project, right? You can just say, run a get request. Let's get all the tax for this particular project. Let's see. So you can see here we have ID 5 and ID 6. So it works fine now. Interesting. I was thinking it was not going to work that time because I don't know why. It works fine. So this user 3, has created 2 tags, right? If I log in as user 2, now I've logged in as user 2, as you can see, user 2 have no active. Okay, so the reason why user 2 is not responding, oh, I get it now, is because, we created user 2 on the local server, right? On the local server, and it's not on the, what's the word now? On the, but that shouldn't be a problem because user 2, let me see, user 2 secure password was also what we used. Right? Let me see, user 1. Okay, so there's user 1. Is there no user 2? Just let me check this. Oh, interesting. I thought there was a user 2. The user 1 is what exists. Okay, so now I've logged in with user 1 as it is currently. User 1 has been logged in. I'm going to use user 1's access code to try and get these details. So I'm going to come to the authentication, change the access token, to user 1's own. So let me run this again and let's see what we have. So I'm trying to get the tags that belongs to project 4. Can you see? I'm trying to get the tags that belongs to project 4. Meanwhile, project 4 was created by user 3. And you can see there we're having what? An empty list because it is not user 1 that created this, right? But if I should log in with user 4, I change it to user 4, I'm sorry, user 3, I mean. So user 3 is the fourth user. I think that's the way confusion is. But there's a super user. User 3 is the fourth user. So if I should log in with user 3 and I use his own access token, I come here and I change it, right? I change it from the user 1 and I use the right access token. And I say, okay, I want to get the tax for this user. You can see we have 2 tags because he has created 2 tags. And you can, just test more of this. You can create more projects, create more users on the production endpoint, right? Test them on Postman and just play around with it and see how it goes. So with this, we've come to the end of this project. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be glad to respond. And thank you very much. Your learning doesn't stop here. Keep on practicing, keep on learning, and have a good day. Bye.